We're back. So we finished learning our songs. They were much harder than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, they were way harder.
Well, let me rephrase that. They were harder than I thought. Yours was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Absolutely.
Mine seemed much easier than what it sounds like. We just finished recording Tim's. We're recording this video early because I still got to finish mine, which I'm going to do tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, one thing that I've really learned about all this with recording is that normally the thing I never pay attention to is the vocals. And in these songs, that's what makes them less repetitive because
It makes them less repetitive, and it does, like we said in the video, it fills out a lot of the song. Like when we were listening back to after I finished recording mine, it does feel like there's a lot missing out of it.
yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, the song does sound complete without,
Yep.
but I don't know. Like Claudio just, I don't know, he's on another level with the way his vocals are.
Yeah, and we both wrote a few of our own parts for these songs just simply because it's hard to find a good tab. It's hard to find a good like playthrough video, and the leads for these songs for the guitars are so low in the mix that it's hard to just hear them and figure it out by ear. So what we did was we kind of wrote our own leads based on what we felt would work from what we've learned from these, listening to this whole album is, yeah, I guess basically we took what we learned from it and applied it to writing something for it, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I definitely tried to incorporate a lot of what I think his name's Travis. I think I tried to incorporate a lot what he would do in my solo for The Suffering. And I tell you, I mean, it's a way different kind of playing lead than what I'm used to.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of octave chords and whatnot. So, I mean, that was the most difficult part, I think, was trying to kind of get my fingers to do what the song required them to do in that case. And then just playing sparsely. I'm used to playing shred kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to play it a little bit more melodic was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a test. Especially, Coheed and Cambria is so much different than like the bands I normally listen to, like Trivium and Lamb of God and Killswitch Engage. Like they don't sound anything alike. So learning something in a completely different ballpark from what I'm used to.
Yeah.
It was definitely an experience, and I plan on taking what I learned and apply it to some of my own music.
Yeah, and I kind of already have too, because like he was saying, with some of his influences, I'm used to playing Metallica or Dream Theater or Rush or something in that line, and this is not anything like those kind of songs, but it does make me want to kind of go outside the box a little more than I have, and put some starts and stops in some of the rhythms, make them a little more interesting, put pauses in so that way the song has a chance to breathe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, I don't know, like it just kind of opened my eyes a little more to what songwriting can and cannot be.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I still like it, don't get me wrong, but
I'll tell you what, though, after working on this, there could have been a lot worse albums that we could have done too.
Yeah.
I mean, this was, for me, it was a pleasure. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed, the time I spent listening to this album, understanding their characteristics and everything. Yeah. I think, as we've said a few times here, it's going to really help out in the future for me as a guitar player.
Yeah, for sure. I had a lot of fun. And it definitely learned a lot. It's hard to put into words, but it's just it's a different style of music than I'm used to. It's a little simpler, but it's more complex at the same time because in a lot of metal music it's the rhythm guitar that drives the song, and it makes it a little bit easier to write music like that, in my opinion. Where it's the vocals that drive the songs, where I'm not a vocalist by any means. I don't write lyrics. I don't write vocal melodies. It's hard to, play a song that's that repetitive on guitar. Like I said, the riffs, it's not that they're easy, but they're not that hard either. Like once you figure them out, they're not that bad.
No,
at least.
I mean, it took me probably from the time I started working on this song to now, I probably spent altogether maybe 3 days worth of time. And yeah, like after that, the very first day I hit the very first note fall on Suffering, and I was like, oh crap, where am I going to go from here? Because I could not figure out what key it was in, where he was going with it.
Well, yeah, and then that was another thing is they play in a different tuning than what Tim's used to.
Yeah, because I just play in regular E standard more often than not, and they were playing in E flat, which I know it doesn't make much of a difference, especially with the patterns and whatnot.
Right.
But when you're used to that certain tonality and that certain voicing of the guitar, it's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah.
And
it was just like when we were recording your song, just finishing it up today, I was just laying down a little bit of bass and I tuned it down to drop. Just that's what I'm used to. I'm used to playing in drop C sharp. So I was like, fuck, I keep getting like confused because like that standard E string, or that scale or whatever. And I was just like, no, I need to drop this.
Well, and the overall tempo of the songs too, because I think both songs, we found out, were more or less in the same tempo. They were
both about 157, I think. I'm pretty sure both of them were 157.
Which, the guitar players out there, you'll understand, normally you're going to play in like the standard ones 120, 180. Sometimes you're going to play in the 200s, but 150 is kind of a goofy number to play in.
Most of the songs that I write, that I have, they're all in 180 or faster. Like mine are 180, 90. I've done some in 200.
Right.
I did some in 210, but it was technically 105, but it was double time.
Right.
Where these are all, they're just straight quarter notes, 155, just real nice, easy tempo. Not slow by any means, but
no. I don't know. Like for me though, it was like a weird kind of off kilter kind of feel for me because I know it's really natural for a heartbeat and everything like that, but for me, I'm just so used to as a musician playing in 120, 180, like very specific feels and whatnot. And I think that's where I had difficulty at first, was just kind of coming to grips with that. And the song, when I was learning it, was going by a lot faster than my brain could process it. Yeah. And over time, just like Jake said a little bit ago here, you learn the first riff and then you think you've won. You're like, wow, I got there.
Yeah.
And then after that, then you just kind of open the door to all kinds of other problems. But again, once you kind of understand their inhibitions as guitar players and whatnot, it makes it a lot easier. You just go, okay, well, he's going to do this now.
Yeah.
So.
And like I said before, those lead lines over the choruses and stuff, they're just so low down that you can almost not hear them. But then when you're recording it, and it's not in the recording, you're like, oh my God, it sounds empty. Like I almost just didn't record any because like I just couldn't figure them out. And then I learned like, basically what key it's in, what scales to use. And I was like, I got to put something there. It just sounded way too empty. And
I got to tell you too, though, speaking of the scales and the kind of note choices and whatnot, when you hear Suffering, you're going to definitely hear that it's a way different solo than what's on the record and whatnot. But I was able to kind of piece together just hearing what the chord changes and what the chord structures were going to be like, and then hearing the song several times and what the lead guitar player was playing. I thought the little melody part that I put it toward the end kind of did it some justice, and then especially
those leads sounded good. I wrote it completely different, so you guys already heard it if you watch the video. If not, look at it. Yeah, it's not. I am a humble guitarist. I don't brag or anything, but I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah, he should be very proud of that one because man,
it was way different than what I would normally write for my songs. Again, this whole experience was such a departure for me, and I kind of felt it would be a little bit easier just simply because it's a little bit more contemporary of a band, I guess. But it almost seems like you had an easier time with this because they had a lot more classic rock influence than I was expecting.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was a slog to get through it. To me, I just enjoyed the whole process. Yeah. And just like we've been saying, once I kind of got the groove of the song, like even your song, we had mentioned it a little bit ago that even those two songs are similar and have different similar tropes with them, and it's kind of fun to see the progress of each of us in the other's perspective, because when I was listening to what he was coming up with and everything, it's what I would have done. Like it kind of shows me exactly, you can have two different styles but still be so similar in how you're going to approach a song.
Yeah, well, these two songs were maybe the easier songs on the album, but honestly, that's the only way we're gonna figure out that's the only way we're gonna learn songs in a week. Like, and we had to learn not just the guitar parts, but I had to make drums. I'm not a drummer. I can't play drums to save my life. I had to make drums on the computer from scratch for at least mine. I think I made a few for his, but all of mine were from scratch. And then I had to record 3 different guitar parts.
Yeah.
I had to record a bass line, which means I had to learn the bass line.
Yeah.
I had to learn all the rhythms. I had to learn all the leads as best as I could.
And I wussed out, and I'm not a bass player, so I
Yeah.
just let Jake take over bass on The Suffering. But
And it sounds, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not a bassist. It sounds sick.
yeah.
I think the bass lines came out awesome. I was just messing around, but I think it sounded pretty good.
What do you think surprised you the most though about your own ability in learning these songs? Like what, you know, the one thing that you didn't think you were going to get and you were able to get it?
Playing with lower
Yeah.
gain, like that's what did it for me. Like that's not the only surprise, but that was one of the bigger ones. Was like I didn't think I could actually sound decent, because like the less gain you have, the more your mistakes become obvious. And so I guess it made me realize that I'm not as sloppy as a guitarist as I thought I was.
And, you know, I'm going to hit that as well myself, because the opposite. I'm more of a lead guitar player and I'm more of a soloist. I cannot believe how tight and how one take my rhythms were when we were recording The Suffering. It's unbelievable. Like when I heard the playback, yeah, you're gonna have a couple of mistakes here and there, you know, just from being nervous while you're recording and everything. But I could not believe when I heard the playback how tight it was. And I don't know, to me it shows me that I have hope to take something from this and kind of learn how to play rhythm from another band like this.
Yeah, and I think this would be a good opportunity for both of us, because like I said, they're a little bit more of a contemporary band, so you can maybe learn a little bit more like newer kind of style stuff.
Yeah.
But they also, like I said, have a lot of classic rock influence, so maybe I can learn how to play a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'd like to see where where music came from, because I haven't really done a whole lot of digging into older stuff, like older than like the 80s. Like I've listened to a lot of stuff from the 70s and stuff, but not as much as early 80s is probably as far back as like I've really dived in.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm most comfortable, is in that era, is from the 70s and 80s. So this was kind of a challenge for me, but at the same time, I didn't really, I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't feel challenged, but it wasn't as challenging as I thought it was going to be. So, I'm kind of excited. I as of the recording of this video, I still haven't chosen a video for the next one, or chosen an album for the next video. So I'm still kind of weeding through it, trying to figure out which one I want to kind of approach at the next one.
You better hurry up. You've got 6 days to figure it out.
Yeah.
So if you have one in mind, we'll just do that.
I was thinking of Boston's first album. I thought that would be a good one. There's a little bit of similarity between the two bands, at least for like what kind of key the songs are in and how they approach it and whatnot. There are major differences though.
Yeah. And that was one of, like, not Boston per se, but I heard a lot of like I kept comparing a lot of this music to Styx.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Queen. Like some of the guitar lines reminded me a lot of Queen. Like like there was that one lead line, I think it was the end of the chorus in The Suffering. And just the way that he does this bend with this harmony, I was like, that sounds just like Queen. Sounds just like Brian May. I was like, no shit. They always were in my head as like an emo band, or like a, not really metal, just like I guess just an emo band, like a darker emo band. But you really listen to it and it's like, it's crazy how much other stuff you hear. Like you don't hear really emo at all. Like you do, just because the subject matter is so dark, but
not really. And you said it earlier, you can really hear a lot of their influence in their own music. And it's the nice thing about this group, it's so right in your face what their influences are and whatnot. I mean, I heard a lot of Queen, a lot of Rush, for example. And again, I know in the original video I said that Claudio has stated the band is not influenced by Rush.
It's total bullshit. There's no way with his vocals and the bass lines, maybe not the bass lines so much, but there's no way they weren't influenced by Rush.
Right. 'Cause you can hear it. I mean, it's very obvious in their music that late 70s hard rock, progressive rock, some emo music. I mean, they were in with the early 2000s.
And as far as classic rock goes, who did progressive rock better than Rush? I know a lot of people don't like Rush, but a lot of people don't like progressive music. And Rush is probably the more attainable one from back then, at least.
And I know the two of us, we chose their less progressive songs from this album, I think. But I mean, let's be real here. There's still progressive elements to it. A lot of on the upbeat entrances for some of the instruments.
I would consider it a progressive rock album just because it's, it's a concept album. And I mean, like I said, like a progressive rock / metal band isn't necessarily like a Dream Theater where they
No, they
are
don't have
all
to play a million notes a
outstanding
second.
musicians and can shred like a fucking hummingbird for a metronome or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's subject matter. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot. You need to pick an album because we told him we would.
I think we're going to go ahead and do Boston's first album. I've been kind of thinking about that for the last week, and I think that's just a good fit. So I think it's a good place to start, at least to go back to the 70s. And I'm pretty excited about it.
I mean, Boston, they were not really heavy, but they had their production quality for their time was amazing.
The production quality, some of the techniques that Tom Schultz used.
Yeah.
Brad Delp's an amazing singer.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I guess we're doing Boston next week.
Absolutely.
And then the week after that, we'll learn a song. We want to bring in some guests. So if anybody wants to be a guest here, let me know. I'm more than happy to have you guys on, because we can get into it and be technical about it where, I mean, it might be going over some people's heads.
The other part of this series too that I'm interested into is I'm a little bit more on the musical theory and technique side of it. Jake's a lot more on the production side of it and the feel of it. So I'm really excited to kind of understand how the production side of it works and how to understand how the overall message of the lyrics and the feel kind of comes across in the music.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how maybe the production, or just that aspect of it could have like taken away from or added to the actual music. Because there's that whole debate where analog sounds better than digital. Well, does it though? Like, I don't know.
To me, though, as just a musician, without thinking about the production quality or anything, I personally don't hear much difference. But again, I'm just trying to pick out the music parts of it, what kind of scales being used, what kind of chord, how is this lead line working over, and so on and so forth. I'm not really paying attention when I'm listening to music about the production quality.
Right, exactly. But that's something that I was kind of thinking about when we were trying to learn, like I said, those lead lines is maybe it was the production quality why we couldn't hear the leads. It's not clear enough, or is it just because they turned it down too far? I don't know. Yeah,
and without doing this project, that's something that a musician like me, I would never consider because I'm not listening for that. I'm just listening for the lead.
Yeah.
So it's helping me an awful lot understand that. So
yeah, and it's teaching me to listen to music as a whole. Like listen to the whole song, like what makes it sound the way it does. What I'm not listening. Like I said, we're learning how to play these songs on guitar, but I'm not listening to just the guitars, like because that's not the most important part. And I learned that's I guess that the biggest thing I could take from this music that we did this week is that like the guitar is not the biggest part because it's so repetitive, and it's the vocals and the melody of the vocals that drive pretty much the whole album.
Yes.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to get going. I guess we'll see you next week when we do Boston.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
All right. Peace.